Shut up and watch your life change. For the moment you still your tongue, you allow the universe to speak on your behalf. Too many people talk themselves out of their blessings, through fear, through doubt, through idle words that hold no power except to delay what is already theirs by divine right. When you stop speaking of your limitations, they begin to vanish. When you cease rehearsing your problems, the solution arrives as if it had been waiting all along. Your words shape reality in ways far greater than most people understand. Every time you speak, you are planting seeds into the soil of the unseen. These words, especially when charged with emotion or belief, take root in your subconscious mind and in the universal mind that governs all life. What you continually affirm, you eventually experience. When a person goes around saying, "I'm always broke," "nothing ever works out for me," or "people never appreciate me," they are not simply expressing frustration, they are casting spells, unknowingly commanding their outer world to reflect those very declarations. The law of life doesn't discriminate between positive or negative, it simply brings forth the harvest of the seed sown. And the seed is always the word. When someone begins to understand this spiritual truth, they stop using careless language. They no longer speak of what they fear or complain about what they lack. They recognize that the power in their tongue is not metaphorical, it is literal. What you speak consistently becomes the script of your life. If you keep repeating stories of struggle, your life will keep handing you more of the same. It is not because you are unlucky or destined to suffer. It is because your own words are commanding the circumstances into being. Even if you speak something casually, if it is repeated or emotionally charged, it goes into your subconscious like a seed and begins to grow. This is why those who understand the spiritual laws guard their tongue. They speak only what they want to see. Even if appearances contradict their desire, they choose words that affirm truth rather than the temporary illusion. For instance, instead of saying, "I'm sick," they say, "Divine health flows through me now." Instead of saying, "I can't afford that," they affirm, "The supply of the universe is unlimited, and I receive what is mine by divine right." Such words may seem unrealistic to others, but they are statements of spiritual fact. When spoken with faith and authority, they override the appearances of lack and limitation, allowing divine substance to take form in new and surprising ways. People often speak defeat and then wonder why they are defeated. They talk endlessly about what is going wrong, and then live in the very world their words have created. But just as one can build a prison with words, one can also build a palace. By speaking only what uplifts, strengthens, and aligns with spiritual truth, a person begins to witness the transformation of their reality. It does not come from struggle, but from agreement. An agreement is often established through the spoken word. In essence, your mouth becomes the channel through which divine power flows. It is your wand, your creative tool. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be intentional. If you want a better life, start by speaking a better word. And if you don't know what to say, it is better to remain silent than to affirm something you do not wish to experience, because whether you realize it or not, your words are always at work, shaping the very world you walk through. Silence aligns you with divine power in a way that words often cannot. When you stop talking about your problems, your struggles, or even your goals with a sense of urgency or desperation, you enter into a sacred stillness where the real work begins. In silence, the mind grows quiet, and the inner voice, often drowned out by fear or mental noise, rises to the surface. This inner voice is the channel through which divine guidance flows. It is in this quiet that you become receptive to truth, and it is in this stillness that your energy aligns with the infinite intelligence that governs all life. The ego is loud and reactive. It wants to fix, to explain, to complain, to seek validation. It shouts at the universe, as though begging and pushing will bring results. But the divine works in stillness, in subtlety, in spiritual precision. When you silence the need to be heard by the world, and instead become still enough to hear from the divine, You stop operating from lack and start moving in harmony with abundance. Silence is not weakness, it is spiritual mastery. It reflects trust in divine timing, divine order, and divine compensation. When you stop speaking about what is not yet resolved, you cease giving energy to the delay. The more you discuss a problem, the more real it becomes to you, and the more you attract situations that mirror that belief. But when you go silent, not from repression, but from knowing, you say without saying, I trust that everything is working out perfectly, and I don't need to convince anyone, not even myself. This kind of silence is not empty, it is full of faith. It carries a vibration of power and inner authority. You are no longer trying to force change through words. You are allowing divine law to unfold what has already been set in motion. There is tremendous power in speaking affirmations, yes, but once they are spoken with full belief, the rest is surrender. Continual repetition with anxiety or doubt actually blocks the manifestation, because it affirms to your subconscious mind that you don't yet believe it's yours. But when you can say it once with conviction and then rest in silence, you've entered the realm of true creation. Silence is the space where faith matures. It is the spiritual soil where the seed takes root. You don't dig it up with constant chatter. You leave it alone and let it grow. By being quiet, you step out of the way. You remove your personality, your control, your interference, and you allow divine intelligence to orchestrate the path forward. That is when you begin to notice synchronicities, sudden solutions, and inner peace that no amount of talking ever brings. Words have power, but silence is often the container through which that power is revealed. When you no longer need to explain, justify, or declare what is already yours, you have aligned with the divine in its purest form, calm, confident, and complete. Faith works best in quiet expectation. When you speak your word with authority and true belief, you do not need to repeat it over and over as if the universe did not hear you the first time. Real faith knows that once something is spoken into the spiritual realm, it is already in motion. There is no need to beg or plead. Instead, you enter a space of calm assurance, holding the vibration of what you desire as if it is already done. This quiet confidence is not passive, it is spiritually active. It declares silently, it is done, and allows the law to carry it out in perfect time and perfect form. Many people speak affirmations without understanding this. They repeat phrases day after day, but their words are wrapped in worry and doubt. They speak not from knowing, but from hoping, and hoping is not faith. Faith is the deep inner conviction that what you have asked for already exists in the unseen and will manifest without delay. It does not require evidence, it becomes the evidence. Quiet expectation means you do not chase signs or obsess over results. You go about your life in peace, knowing that what is yours is already on its way. You act from a place of inner stability rather than emotional desperation. To live in quiet expectation is to live in harmony with the spiritual laws. It means you trust that the forces of the universe are working even when you cannot see them. Just as a seed grows in the dark soil, unseen for a time, so do your desires unfold in the silence of faith. The outer world may remain unchanged for a while, but the shift begins within. Your calm anticipation holds the magnetic field strong enough to attract the manifestation without resistance. Every time you speak with fear or act in panic, you weaken that field. But when you stay in the vibration of quiet belief, the field becomes powerful and irresistible. There is a difference between doing something because you believe it's already done and doing it because you hope it might work. Faith chooses the former. Quiet expectation allows you to rest, to stop striving, and to let divine law do its part. This is the missing element for many who try to manifest with words, but never let go internally. You cannot speak a word and then worry it into existence. You must speak it once with belief, and then hold the feeling of its fulfillment with certainty, no matter what the current conditions look like. True creation begins in silence. After you declare your truth, your only task is to expect it with joy. You keep your heart aligned and your thoughts elevated, not through force but through surrender. This is how faith becomes the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It does not shout, it does not struggle. It rests quietly in the knowledge that what is spiritual is also real, and that what is real must eventually be seen. Complaints delay manifestation in ways that often go unnoticed. Every time you speak negatively about your life, your circumstances, or your future, you are planting seeds of resistance in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. While you may believe you are simply venting or expressing reality, what you are actually doing is reinforcing and recreating the very conditions you wish to change. The universal law responds not just to what you desire consciously, but to what you affirm repeatedly through your words and feelings. Complaining is an affirmation in reverse. It is a declaration of lack, delay, frustration, and powerlessness, all of which tell the universe, keep giving me more of this. There is no such thing as a harmless complaint. Every word carries vibration. When you speak of things going wrong, of not having enough, of people mistreating you, or of situations being unfair, you give those conditions more life and energy. You bind yourself to the very patterns you want to escape. The more you talk about what's missing, the more you push away what is trying to come. It is as though your complaints build an invisible wall around your blessings, keeping them just out of reach. The law cannot bring abundance to someone who constantly affirms poverty, nor can it bring healing to one who constantly speaks of illness. People often complain because they think it helps release tension or find connection with others, but spiritually, it drains power. It places attention on appearances rather than truth. When you complain, you are affirming that what you see is more real than what you desire. This splits your energy and weakens your ability to manifest. Instead of standing in faith, you begin to wobble in doubt. Even if you have spoken affirmations earlier in the day, one complaint can dilute the strength of that affirmation, because the subconscious mind hears the contradiction and becomes confused. And confusion always leads to delay. To truly manifest what you want, you must discipline your words and withdraw your energy from complaining. This does not mean you pretend problems don't exist. It means you no longer give them your voice. You no longer speak them into permanence. You no longer invite others to agree with your limitations. Instead, you cultivate the habit of inner alignment. You speak only what you want to grow. You learn to fall silent when tempted to give energy to the negative. In that silence, your power begins to gather again. When you stop complaining, you shift from reaction to creation. You begin to master your vibration rather than being mastered by circumstances. The outer world may not change immediately, but your energy does. And as your energy shifts, so does your reality. Complaining is easy, but creation requires discipline. To refrain from speaking of lack while still surrounded by it is a spiritual act of faith. It declares, I am no longer loyal to what is, I am loyal to what can be. And that loyalty, when sustained, opens the door to transformation. Miracles begin in the unseen. Before any shift occurs in the outer world, it must first be born in the invisible realm of spirit, thought, and belief. This is where true creation happens, not through force or physical effort, but through inner alignment. When a person begins to understand that their reality is not determined by what they see, but by what they believe, they stop waiting for proof and start preparing for manifestation. The most powerful changes occur not when you announce them, but when you believe them quietly within, when you nurture them in the silence of your heart. Many people give up too soon because they expect the outer world to confirm their desires instantly. But the outer is always a reflection of the inner, and it takes time for the spiritual blueprint to take shape in physical form. Just as a seed planted in soil takes time to push through the earth and blossom into a flower, so do your desires require time to mature in the unseen. To become impatient or discouraged during this sacred period is to interfere with the divine process. When you expect miracles only when you see signs, you are still living by sight. But faith lives by the unseen and knows that what is spiritual is more real than what is visible. It is in this unseen space that the most profound shifts occur. The doubt begins to dissolve, the fear starts to lose its grip. You start thinking differently, speaking differently, and responding to life in a new way. And though no one else may notice the change yet, the vibration you carry begins to invite new possibilities. The unseen is where the foundation is laid, and once the foundation is strong, the structure rises quickly. It may appear as though nothing is happening, but everything is happening. The universe is rearranging people, opportunities, timing, and circumstances in ways you could never orchestrate yourself. The unseen is also where spiritual battles are won. It is where you choose to believe in abundance while your bank account still shows lack. It is where you decide you are healed while the symptoms are still present. It is where you declare love surrounds you, even when you feel alone. This is the realm of faith, and it is where miracles begin. The person who learns to honor this process becomes a true co-creator with the divine. They no longer panic when appearances don't match their desires because they know appearances are temporary. They trust the unseen more than what the eyes can see. Living from the unseen does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to live from a higher reality. It means you speak, think, and act as though the miracle has already occurred, not because you are pretending, but because you are aligning with the truth that all things are possible. Miracles do not begin with action, they begin with awareness. And when that awareness is held consistently, it becomes form. What was once invisible becomes undeniable. What was once hoped for becomes present, and what was once thought impossible becomes your new normal. When you let the Spirit do the work, you step into the realm of effortless manifestation. Human effort, no matter how persistent, is limited by doubt, fear, and attachment to outcomes. But divine intelligence knows no struggle. It works in perfect harmony, orchestrating events with precision, timing, and power beyond comprehension. The moment you stop pushing, forcing, and trying to make everything happen with your limited will, the true power begins to flow. You are not meant to carry the weight of creation on your shoulders. You are meant to speak the word, hold the vision, and then let the unseen forces handle the details. Letting the Spirit do the work means trusting that there is already a path prepared for you. It means understanding that you are never alone in your desire for healing, supply, love, or peace. The Spirit is not idle. It responds the moment you align with your higher self and release the need to control the outcome. This is not inaction. It is divine cooperation. You do your part by believing, affirming, and staying open. The Spirit does its part by arranging people, places, ideas, and timing with exact spiritual order. When you try to rush or control the process, you disrupt the flow. But when you step back and surrender with faith, you allow the greater plan to unfold. Most delays in manifestation come from human interference. People pray for a result and then immediately start worrying about how, when, or whether it will happen. They repeat affirmations but secretly doubt them. They take frantic action, hoping to speed things up, but only create resistance and confusion. True spiritual power is calm. It does not panic. It does not grasp. It declares the truth and then allows it to take form in its own perfect way. This is the sacred dance of trust and surrender. Letting the Spirit do the work also means understanding that divine timing is not your timing. You may want something immediately, but the Spirit sees the whole picture. What you think is delay is often divine protection or preparation. What appears as silence is often a gathering of unseen forces. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there isn't progress. The Spirit works beneath the surface, just like roots growing underground before the flower ever blooms. Your role is not to dig up the seed, but to keep the soil of your faith fertile. When you finally release the burden of how and simply focus on what and why, the spirit begins to move freely, doors open effortlessly, opportunities appear without strain, answers arrive clearly and without confusion. You realize that your real power was never in trying harder, it was in trusting deeper. This is the divine paradox. The less you interfere, the more things align. The less you strive, the more you receive. And in that space of surrender, the Spirit delivers not just what you asked for, but often something far greater than you imagined.